Lesson 6. One of the themes that I have always chosen for discussion in the course on advertising and society I teach is the authority of advertising on us consumers. Advertising and the mass media are authorities in our lives, and we often respond mindlessly to them, at times perhaps against our better interests. I always ask for a show of hands of those who have written letters of complaint about advertisements. Only a very few hands go up. I talk about personal experiences with my own letters of complaint, of which I also have only written a few. I tell about the time in graduate school when I was writing my dissertation and was too busy to cook for myself or go out for food. While opening a can of soup, I noticed the claim on the label that said what a wonderful woman my family would think I am when I serve them this soup. This was ridiculous, I thought, as it is impossible to imagine my sex would change by having this soup for dinner. Perhaps my letter of anger was mostly a means to escape from writing my paper. Whatever its real motive, the response interested me a great deal. The public relations officer wrote politely to explain that the claim was made because their market research showed most of their customers were in fact women. She apologized for having offended me, but most importantly, she informed me that I was the only man to have made this complaint. Another example I use is a letter that I once wrote to Eastern Airlines about a flight from North Carolina to Chicago. We had a very talkative pilot on this particular flight. I was going to make a presentation in Chicago, and I was hoping to put the finishing touches to my work while I was on the plane. His constant announcements about geography and weather were annoying. When we flew over Indiana, he told us that he was a native of that state and asked whether we knew that Hoagie Carmichael was also from Indiana. He then sang Stardust. Upon my return home, I wrote to the company. A few weeks later, the pilot himself telephoned to apologize. He seemed surprised that I or anyone else was annoyed. Then he echoed a familiar phrase. I had no idea. I thought everybody liked my comments. Nobody ever complained before. Each of these accounts merely illustrates the general point that customers complain little about what they find unpleasant. Those who make advertising often interpret this silence as agreement. When consumers speak up, the advertisers and companies try to defend their right to determine what should be included in advertisements. Changes are made only when they are afraid that customers may reject the advertised product. Companies are reluctant to offend potential customers. Consumer complaints threaten the monopoly on the management of meaning that the companies feel is rightly theirs.